welcome to Season 5, Episode 6 of the Outlap F1 podcast, part of the Shivit Studios podcast network. This is the 2023 Saudi Arabian Grand Prix race review. I am your host, James, along with my wonderful co-hosts, Andy and Cody. Boys, are you feeling the madness or feeling Irish?
Feeling Irish?
Probably a little of both at this point. My bracket is completely terrorized and busted and all sorts of put to bed. So, and, Friday was actually St. Patrick's Day, so I didn't get a chance to do as much reveling as I normally do this time of the year. But it's nice to see the river green. That was fun.
Yeah. No green beer for me tonight, but I'm drinking out of a green container, if that works.
Oh, there you go.
Just as good. All right, we do have a race to talk about, but before we get into that, you can find us on Twitter, Instagram, Discord, Reddit, and YouTube at Outlap F1 Podcast. Of course, you can check out our link tree and our Twitter profile page. Do us a solid and click like and subscribe on YouTube, or click that 5-star button if you're on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. It helps the show promote. You can email the show at chatnow@outlapf1.com. Visit our website at www.outlapf1.com, where you find all of our back episodes, including our F1 for Beginners episode back on last season 4. Episode 4, so check that out. Andy, tell us about Outlap F1 Nation, who continues to step up.
As always, thank you so much to our monetary supporters, including Dean Warwick, Yuri Dolchester, Paul Weaver, Quentin Warden, Kevin Kelly, Regan Stanzik, Timothy Brown, and, of course, Jonathan Scott. If you'd like to become a member of our Outlap F1 Nation, please see our link in our show notes. $5, whatever you'd like to do, we would be most appreciative of that. All the money we take goes right back into the show. We've bought some new equipment. We've got some equipment on order. So, like I said many times before, we appreciate all the support from everybody out there. So thanks much.
That's right. We do appreciate each and every one of you. You can also check out Manscaped and use code OUTLAP, OUTLAP, all one word, for 20% off and free shipping off your manscaping needs. Also this week, our sponsor continues to be the Portage Park Development Project, a thriving community in the Upland Metaverse. If you are from Chicago like us, Portage Park might sound familiar. That's because the Upland Metaverse is based on real-world cities and properties, and Portage Park is an actual neighborhood in Chicago, and we want to show the best Portage Park has to offer. Come join us. Links to the Portage Park Discord server, racing track maps, and socials are in our podcast show notes. We hope to see you in the Metaverse. All right, housekeeping out of the way. Time to move on to headlines of the day. And Andy, your name starts with an A. You can start us off.
Boy, it's really nice to see, all of that restructuring at the FIA. Boy, does that really look like it's paying off today, man. Whoa, this was classic FIA, absolute nonsense. We're going to get into all that in a little minute, but it's nice to know that I can still be breaking news at 5 p.m. when the race ended at 2. Yikes.
What a shit show. Cody, hit us with your headline of the day.
My headline of the day is nobody can stop Alonso's comeback, not even the FIA. As you're probably starting to tell, I don't think there's any love for the FIA here. Alonso was stricken with that penalty literally right at the start of the race, and it continued to haunt him long after the race was over. So I'm glad that it seems to have all worked out for him in the end, but the FIA really needs to get their shit together.
Well said, sir. My headline of the day, right in line with you three, or the three of us are all kind of aligned here. Mine's fucking IA. It's ridiculous. I mean, it's almost as if they're trying to sabotage Formula One from keeping all of the new fans that are finding their way to F1. It's just making things more difficult to understand as a new fan. It makes no sense. The common theme tonight, though, is some FIA hatred. So if you're in for that, make sure you listen, because I'm sure this will come again where we all agree on the same subject. But before we get into some of that, we are going to go to our qualifying recap. And for that, I think I'm going to hand it off to you, Andy.
Alrighty. All right. So on Saturday, we had our qualifying session and unfortunately not setting any sort of competitive time because he had one of those FIA track limits violations was Logan Sargent, so he went out in P20. P19 was Lando Norris, who clipped the inside retaining wall at turn 27, meaning he did not set a very competitive lap time, and his day was done there. P18, Nick DeVries. P17, Alex Albon. P16 was Yuki Tsunoda. Moving on to Q2, but going no farther in P15, bit of a shocker here, Max Verstappen, who had a drive shaft problem and was unable to set a lap in Q2. P14 was Valtteri Bottas. P13, Kevin Magnussen. P12 was Zhao Guanyu. P11, just missing out on the top 10 shootout, was Nico Hülkenberg. Going through to the Q3 shootout, in P10 was Pierre Gasly. P9 was Oscar Piastri. P8 was Lewis Hamilton. P7 was Esteban Ocon. P6 was Lance Stroll. P5, Carlos Sainz. P4, George Russell. P3, there he is yet again, Fernando Alonso. P2, he would eventually take a 10th-place grid penalty, but he qualified second. That would be Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari. And in P1, with a lap time of 1:28.265, Sergio Checo Perez.
All right, thank you, Andy. As always, let's talk about the qualifying a little bit. First off, I'd say Max Verstappen all weekend was looking really good, FP1, 2, and 3. And it looked like all of our fears were being realized that Max Verstappen was just going to dominate the whole season. Not that I like Max, but it was just going to be a dominant performance all season long. And we see him go out in Q2, which I enjoyed because at least you knew that Sunday was going to be exciting watching him march through the field, and we did get to see a little bit of that, but we'll get into that later. But overall, what do you think about qualifying, Cody?
I thought it was pretty exciting. Like you're saying, with Max, having a failure and it happened to come back through the field from P15, I knew right away that would add a little bit of excitement to the race. Did feel bad for Logan Sargent missing out on what could have been a pretty good lap by a pretty bad out-of-bounds error on a straight. But it is what it is. He's going to make some rookie mistakes, and I'm sure he'll learn from it. I was just going to say, I knew I should have gone with Perez for our competition, Andy, because that was my initial gut instinct since he had pole last year, but missed out on that one.
Well, that's the thing with the predictions. The second you think you know what's going to happen, somebody throws a drive shaft issue at it. And, you up until maybe an hour before qualifying, I would have told you it would have been Max Verstappen and Max Verstappen going away. And then, boom, now he's hopping out of the car at the start of Q2 and not turning a lap. So that then opens the door for Perez to take pole. And it made... we also thought, here comes Fernando Alonso. This was going to be his best shot to maybe really pull off a result, but still solid P3. They're clearly, you can easily see who the top three are right now. It's Red Bull, and then, a bit of a gap, and then Ferrari, not that far off, at least on one lap pace, and then Aston Martin. This is not a fluke. This is for real.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we got Charles Leclerc as maybe the greatest qualifier we have in the sport right now. Any arguments?
No, I think he's pretty much the best over one lap, but it seems like, as fate would have it, that's about all he's getting. That's going to be great.
If the car can stay together, we know he can put it together for a lap. And James, you can kind of tell me, it looked like that Ferraris this entire weekend were definitely running down, I think, on overall power. That's not what you would expect to see. I mean, the qualifying ended up kind of where we would have thought, but the race pace certainly wasn't there, and certainly not any form in practice. But we're used to seeing them turn the engine down, but maybe not that much.
Yeah, it's like late Wednesday, early Thursday is when the Ferrari Twitter sphere started blowing up, and people were talking about they were going to be turning down the power going into the weekend, and it was like, this sucks. And it definitely seemed like that through FP1 through 3. So I don't know if they turned it up much going into qualifying or not, but, Charles Leclerc dragged that thing up to second place. Realistically, they probably would have been third if it wasn't for Max Verstappen's reliability, but probably going to be saying that all year anyway. So for him to put it that close to pole with the way it's looking right now is pretty damn impressive. And he's on another planet right now, over one lap. If you just figure out the other 50, 60 laps depending on the race. It'd be pretty cool.
Yeah,
All right, so enough about qualifying. We'll move right into the race. For that, we start with the back markers, where we'll find Lance Stroll and Alex Albon, who did not finish. Valtteri Bottas, the first of the finishers, in 18th, but 1 lap back. Lando Norris in 17th. Logan Sargent in 16th after racing up in the 12th, 13th range for a while. Oscar Piastri in 15th. Nick DeVries in 14th. And Zhou Guan Yu to finish in 13th place. Start quickly with Lance Stroll, who pretty damn impressive there early in the race when he had a nice pass on Carlos Sainz around the outside. That was awesome. And then I know they had a little feature on him in the pre-race show, trying to make it seem like how tough Lance Stroll is, but I'm not buying it. Still seemed like a whiny rich boy to me, but it's all right. But yeah, what do you think about Lance Stroll for the few laps we saw him?
Whiny rich boys can still drive fast.
I was going to say, this is Formula One last I checked.
I thought that pass was actually really awesome. I was pretty disappointed to see. I was disappointed to see that he, had that failure. I think he would have finished easily in, top 4 had it not been for that.
Yeah, I think he would have been the one battling with Mercedes.
Oh, for sure. I mean, top 5 was definitely on the cards for him. Showed really well. Obviously, he's continued to recover from the injury. I gave him full marks last time out. That I didn't know the extent of it, but when you actually get all of the details and everything, you realize I don't know what the hell he did on the bike. He must have had some sort of a high side that went really awry, or a bad rock or something that he hit on a trail somewhere. I don't know anything for sure, but I mean, damn. You look at the list of injuries, that was extensive. So again, playing through pain, I'll give him credit. Unfortunately the car conked out at him and caused, I think FIA controversy number 1, as it turned out. But I mean, from what we saw, it looked impressive.
Yeah, fortunately for him, not too many tight turns on this one that's going to play havoc on that hand.
Yeah, now another 2 weeks to heal up. So Cody, what did you think about Logan Sargent? It had quite a bit of camera time, I feel like, for somebody who finished in 16th place, but was battling up in the 12-13 range for a little while before ultimately settling in 16th. What did you think about his race overall?
Yes. I thought for having started at the back, I thought it was pretty good, especially near the end there where he was trying to fight off the 2 McLarens who, are going to be fighting for anything that they could possibly get. He seemed to be doing a pretty good job of holding him off for a few laps there. So overall, I'd say, he's only got 2 to show for, so definitely not his better of the 2. But I think he's going to take this as a pretty good learning experience. And we did get that good camera time with him fighting against the McLarens. So I think that showed he could fight the good fight if he needed to.
Continue. Oh,
go ahead,
sorry. Just continue to be impressed with the effort that he put in. He obviously made the mistake on Saturday. Made up for it pretty quickly, I thought, on Sunday. All of a sudden, boom, he's right behind his teammate. His teammate goes out with a DNF and his brakes failed. But and you would have thought if maybe he was on the hard compound instead of the soft or the medium compound at the end, maybe it's a better result overall. But nothing in the driving style or the racecraft, shows anything necessarily really wrong other than, hey, you might want to read the director's notes next time. And that's a rookie mistake and he'll learn from it. And, but again, still solid result, even from P16.
Yes, sir. So Andy, we'll stick with you. And I got to ask you about McLaren in the back markers section of the show here. What'd you think about the weekend overall with McLaren? Maybe give us a silver lining if you can find one. And why, I feel like multiple times this week leading up to the race, I saw people saying things about, Lando Norris has to get out of this contract. I mean, are fans that fickle, Andy, or are they just young, new fans that don't understand you got to stay with a franchise for a little while to figure things out?
Well, Twitter is Twitter, and if you're going for emotional support, that's not where you go. Because you're going to find the worst and the hottest of the hot takes all over the place. And trust me, I've read enough of them this weekend. I can vouch that what I've seen. So, I mean, the car actually was better. It was significantly better here than it was in Bahrain. at least in terms of one lap pace. They were able, I mean, really, if Lando doesn't make the mistake in qualifying, he's probably P11, P10 at the start of the race. What they managed to do today, though, was actually something of a bit of a next level trick where the debris from Oscar Piastri's contact manages to flip up and find his teammate 6 rows behind him. I don't know how they managed to pull that one off, but they managed to do that. So it's both front wings get destroyed on the first lap. And at that point, you're in the pack anyway. But we are making progress. 1, both cars both finished. And 2, the McLaren pit crew finally, a race and a half in, got to make an uninterrupted pit stop when Norris came into the safety car. It was only 4 tires. It wasn't anything else. Didn't have to put a hose in the car. Didn't have to change the wing. So progress, albeit being slow. It's, again, 2 out of the 3 painful races we knew were coming. But there is a silver lining. I think they're better. And Piastri showed really well here, I thought, overall over the course of the weekend. So that's something to take from this weekend.
After that first lap issues with them. With those first lap issues, I was thinking of Andy being like, oh no, this is not looking good. But they did do a good job of bringing it back at the end and at least, looking like they were able to fight for some positions with the Williams and AlphaTauris.
Yep. All right, so we'll move into the midfield where we'll find Nico Hulkenberg in 12th, Yuki Tsunoda in 11th, K-Mag, Kevin Magnussen in 10th for the first driver with points, Pierre Gasly in 9th, Esteban Ocon in 8th, Charles Leclerc in 7th place. In 6th, you'll find Carlos Sainz with Lewis Hamilton just ahead in 5th, and George Russell in 4th place just ahead of his teammate Lewis Hamilton. All right, so first off, just a quick comment. But man, I don't know if it's like the night race thing or something, but every time they'd show the Haas and the AlphaTauri battling, I thought it was the same team. They are very hard to distinguish between those 2 cars on track. Very similar looking, so kind of frustrating there. But Haas steals the point today. So I guess we'll call that a positive for Haas this weekend.
My fiance said the exact same thing during the race, so that they looked like they were on the same team. I thought it was great that Magnussen squeaked out that last point. Yuki had that scream of losing out on that last point right at the end of the race. I kind of felt bad for him.
Yeah, I mean, you look at AlphaTauri, and you look at this was an opportunity for them to get a point that they probably desperately need at this stage. Talk about a team that's in some turmoil. Franz Tost before the weekend saying, I no longer trust my engineering staff. They told me we were making progress. I don't see it. But yet nobody's fired, which is also interesting. So, but yeah, you could obviously tell Yuki, you felt kind of bad for him, but good on K-Mag to pick the point for the Haas team there.
Yep. And then moving up to the edge. Moving up to Alpine, we got Pierre Gasly and Ocon finishing 9 and 8, about 2 seconds apart. But between them, there was 10 seconds ahead and 10 seconds behind. So it was kind of Alpine Island there at the end, which just kind of just feels like where they're going to slot in maybe all year, maybe with like a freak rainstorm or something that might jump up and find a podium. But otherwise, it seems like they're a 5th place car and they're going to be right there.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit better than they showed in Bahrain. I mean, Bahrain, they looked way off of it. And, you kind of thought, okay, this was a team that said that they were going to challenge P3 and didn't look like it was anywhere near.
No.
Looked a little bit better this weekend, but still they look like they are deeply entrenched in the midfield. And the midfield, just as a whole, is you're on that knife edge, and it depends on, what side of that knife edge are you on? Are you in the P8, P9, P7 range like Alpine, or are you in the P15, P14, McLaren / Williams lot? And there's not a whole lot of difference between any of those times. Just looking at the overall race pace, they're all really, really tight. That's why you didn't see a whole lot of tons of overtaking, because you didn't have different tire compounds and you didn't see a whole lot of difference in the race pace.
Yeah, it's a good call out, Andy. So I guess we can move into Ferrari, which I guess it could be worse. I could be a McLaren fan, but things aren't great for us in Ferrari land. To finish 7th and 6th, I mean, double point finish. Let's see. Both cars finished the race. What else I got for positives here? Yes,
That's a pretty weak positive.
I'm trying here. Yeah, things aren't great for Ferrari right now. And it seemed like they were getting the strategy right this time. They had a nice pit stop, a great start by Charles Leclerc to move up all the places he did. Put the softs on, made the softs work for quite a while. They went in for a pit. Seemed like they were in good position. And then a safety car just completely screwed Ferrari. I know I'm biased, but I don't think that safety car could have gone worse for any team than it did for Ferrari. So, kind of like a kick in the pants there, and then all they could really scrape together was a 7th and 6th. So, not great.
Yeah, I'm still not convinced by Carlos Sainz. It was in that first stint, even with the grid penalty, Charles Leclerc was catching up to Carlos Sainz pretty rapidly, and even the commentators were saying that it looked like that they were going to be pitting Sainz just to avoid that, having them battling on the track together. I think he really needs to pick up the pace in these races going forward, because eventually he's going to run out of chances.
Yeah, he only went backwards in the race. Qualified 4th, finished 6th, so not a great day.
Yeah, and the biggest thing that's going to be, if you're a Ferrari follower, is, they got to get a handle on this reliability issue. I mean, we've already seen one engine penalty. I think both of them took new power units, so that they're already on power unit 2. So that's, also concerning. And if they're running it down on power, that's not good either. So, there's a bug somewhere in the system. So hopefully, they get through the next race so they can kind of take that mini break and figure all the stuff out, because we know the car's got potential. There's no doubt about it that over the course of one lap, they're the second fastest team. They just got to show it in race pace.
Fortunately for them, reliability fixes don't count as upgrades.
All right, so we'll move up to Mercedes. Andy, why don't you take this one? Lewis Hamilton in 5th, George Russell in 4th. What do you think about the Silver Arrows performance on Sunday?
Impressive from George Russell, able to kind of make the most out of what he had. I thought, he was able to make the hard compound tire work. Lewis benefited from being on the mediums and was able to kind of make them last, which kind of put him on a different strategy than everybody else and kind of let him stay close. If you're talking about just overall demeanor of both guys, George seems to be kind of okay with where the car is. Obviously, we know they're going to be pivoting and they're going to be changing concept. Lewis looks lost, especially over the course of one lap. No real answers, no real confidence in anything right now, what they're doing. He's telling the team they're not listening to him. This is not going well for a guy who wants to get number 8 and call it a day. This could be a 2-3 year thing, and not to mention, I think Lewis just lost his longtime trainer, or somebody that, was very connected to him.
Angela.
The circumstances beyond that are kind of weird. So we're not exactly sure what's up with that. So, for a guy who kind of likes and needs to be mentally into it to really get the best out of him, you're not seeing it right now, from car 44.
Anything on Mercedes, Cody?
I really liked that radio message from George Russell during the race when he was talking about that he shouldn't be battling with Alonso right now because he's got to serve that 5-second penalty. Team comes over the radio and tells him that, he already served the penalty during the safety car. He's like, oh, fuck.
And then they're like, he might be getting another one. And then he's still going to get within the 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seemed like...
we're going to be talking about.
At one point, Lewis was within DRS range of George Russell, and then George started putting together his fastest laps of the race, kind of answered that challenge really, really nicely, and finished almost, 5+ seconds up the road from Lewis. So, Russell's got the goods. He's got no Irish in him because he's very unlucky. He goes to Mercedes just in time for them to start sucking. Or maybe not totally sucking, but not being what they were for 8 straight years. So just bad luck for George. But I'm sure if he sticks around, they'll be back on top soon enough.
Even so, he's got to be happy. Even finishing fourth, fifth every race, that's got to be better than finishing 19th, 20th in that Williams every race.
Yeah, for sure. All right, moving up to the podium where we'll find 2 Red Bulls yet again. Sergio Checo Perez in first place, Max Verstappen in second, and Fernando Alonso in third. Well, I think we're going to get used to this podium, except maybe not in this quarter, just quite. But let's talk about Red Bull first, and then we'll go to Alonso, because I think we're going to have quite a bit to say about Alonso. Checo getting the win today. I mean, that's what you got to expect there. When you've got the best car on the track and your teammates starting, 14 places behind you, you better come home with the win today. But he did deliver under the lights, so great performance by him. But Max Verstappen, he lucked out a little bit with the timing of the safety car, but he was slicing up that field from the beginning of the race and was putting himself in a great position. That safety car only benefited him, but he took full advantage of it to get himself into second place, even dealing with some issues towards the end. But then lays down the fastest lap of the race just at the end after the team told him, don't worry about it. Max Verstappen is always going to worry about every single point. That's what makes him the champion that he is. So what do you guys think? Cody, we'll start with you. You got the Red Bull hat on tonight. What do you think of the Red Bulls weekend?
I think, once again, that they look unstoppable. I don't think anyone has an answer for the Red Bull car right now, even with Max Verstappen starting back in 15th, still finished second. Safety car or not, I think he was going to finish in second place. I do have to say I was pretty impressed with Checo, because once Max got up into second place, I was thinking, oh my God, he's going to catch him, he's going to pass him, and it's going to be all over. But he got within that 5-second range and was chipping away at it a little bit, but especially with that issue that he thought he had late in the race, it seemed like his progress kind of stagnated. And Checo was definitely doing his part, trading fastest laps with Max throughout the middle and end of the race there. So I definitely thought it was an impressive performance from both of them.
Andy?
Yeah, I mean, at least we got to see them actually have to mark one another, and it wasn't just an easy cruise. And full beans and full credit to Checo. I mean, when I saw the gap coming within 4 seconds, I'm like, oh, well, it's been fun, but, here comes the inevitable. And to his credit, he lifted the pace and was able to drive away at the end of it. And it proves to be significant. Now, whether or not Sergio's a real championship contender, whether or not the team will let him be a championship contender, I mean, that's something to still be seen. But at least from a neutral perspective, at least it's not Max 20 out of 20. At least we don't get that. We know that's at least off the table now. And maybe now we get to see some inter-team dynamics. Maybe they cross paths one another. But I think overall, this is the positive edge of that double-edged sword seat. Every once in a while, you get to win a race. So good on you, Checo, for coming home when you needed to.
I did think. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I did think it was funny at the end there where they were telling Checo to let up on the pace a little bit, and he was like, and fall back into Max? Hell no. I'm not letting that happen. I'm going to win this one. Thanks.
I was mostly nervous that Christian Horner was going to be like, all right, Checo, you're going to let Max pass you, because Christian Horner just loves Max Verstappen. I'm like, I don't want to even deal with Twitter until the Australian Grand Prix, if that were to happen. Second race of the year, team orders. Ridiculous. Yeah.
So this may be a bad joke, but I thought of it. So I'm like, okay, if that call comes through, it would be multi 1-1-1. So how do you know who's supposed to be the one in front?
Classic Andy. All right, so we talked about Sergio Perez, good drive, which included passing Fernando Alonso, who got up with what we thought was a great jump on the line and started the race off well to get in front of Checo. But Checo did battle back on the track without the aid of the penalty that Fernando ended up getting. So Andy, I don't even know where to start with this. I guess we'll start with in the race. Fernando Alonso gets a penalty. What was it for?
So it was the same violation that happened to Esteban Ocon back in Bahrain, where he was within the start box but not within it pre-prescribed. And we've seen this now happened in the first 2 races. So why is this now something that normally doesn't happen? Everybody usually lines up and goes. What the FIA is trying to clamp down on are the classic, what you used to see with what Max and Lewis used to do when they would line up 1 and 2, where they would basically be pointing at each other. And Fernando, being on the dirty side of the track, is trying not to be on it as little as possible. So he's pointing his car away from that side of the track. While technically you are within your start box, they've also shortened the width of the start box itself. So he was a little bit, he's basically, it's like his rear end is sticking out a little bit. So that's effectively what happened, and that is not following the start procedure, and therefore a 5-second penalty. Where this gets more interesting is when he tried to come in to serve said penalty during the pit stop, and what constitutes actually, quote, touching or not touching the car.
Yeah, so I guess we can pick it up there. So now how many laps passed? Like 30 laps. And
From when he
served the penalty, which we thought at the time was legally served it. Race ends.
Like 18.
Okay, so yeah, like 32 laps or something. They have to make that call, but the FIA says, "Nah, we're good. We'll wait. Podium happens. He's in the room. At this point, I stopped watching the race. I don't need to see Max and them on the podium again. So, Andy, kind of pick us up there. What happens? What's the timeline look like where now Fernando loses his podium?
So, literally, as he's receiving the trophy, ironically enough, the message comes through that says the stewards have noted a potential improper serving of the penalty. Again, the same thing that also happened to Esteban Ocon in Bahrain, which would carry potentially a 5 or potentially now a 10-second penalty. So it then becomes from noted to investigated to then penalty is assessed. And about 10 minutes after the broadcast goes off, we learn that now it's George Russell who's supposed to be on the podium that nobody got a chance to see. Fast forward about 4 hours, we then learn now in FIA land there is a pre-prescribed way of sending out the documents. If you go to the FIA website, you can download them. You see them on Twitter. People post the actual PDFs, of all the decisions and everything that comes out. All of a sudden, all the document feed from the FIA kind of goes black, which is weird. And then the first thing that comes out is the actual assessment of the 10-second penalty, which, okay, that's the order in which it was assessed. That's fine. But now is where Twitter starts to break when Mr. Alonso himself comes out and tweets, "I'm so happy to get my 100th podium." And everybody's like, what? So what had actually been happening that nobody knew about, other than the people who were actually there, was Aston Martin made an appeal, exercised their right of review, which every competitor has a right to do. They held a second hearing about 3 hours afterwards, and Aston Martin proves to be successful. So we go from the Russell over Alonso podium to now the Alonso back on the podium, once again over Russell. So you did see the real podium, as it turned out. We got the right answer, but procedural-wise, my God, what a bad, stupid way to go about this.
Yeah.
If I could have changed just one thing about the whole situation, I would have had Lewis Hamilton finishing in 4th and George Russell in 5th, because if they would have given Hamilton a podium to take it away, the heads would have exploded on Twitter, and that may have been enjoyable to watch.
Well, that fan base did anyway for different reasons.
Shocking.
I think Russell even said during his interviews that that after they had taken away the podium from Alonso, that he thought that Alonso deserved it, which I thought was very sportsmanlike of him.
Yeah, and the issue with the Alonso penalty comes down to the jack guy. So the car pulls into the pits; they're not allowed to touch it for 5 seconds, and the jack is lined up under the car. Now, it wasn't whether or not it was touching it or not. I can't tell you. I mean, I've seen some photos of it. It looks like it's kind of close to touching it. But here's where your inconsistency comes in. And Aston Martin made the right point and said, look, here's 7 different examples of the same. We're serving our 5-second penalty and nothing happened. So what's up, guys? You haven't changed the rule. The rule hasn't ever been changed from when it was first brought in. Why? I mean, if you're Esteban Ocon, you should be just as pissed as anybody about this for what he had to go through last time out. But because now they agreed that, okay, well, the rule was inconsistent. We agree it was inconsistent. We'll let this go because you were trying to comply with it and there wasn't a material gain of advantage here. And then they've also said by the next race, which is in 2 weeks, we're going to close whatever this loophole is and we'll make the codified rule right. Well, why couldn't you have done that from the beginning? I mean, where's all this extra people and this command center that they've invested in and all this other crap? And we're still left with the same freaking problem.
Yeah, they definitely need to issue some clarification on how these penalties should be served, because I was hearing multiple things like, okay, they're in trouble because they served it under the safety car. Okay, they're in trouble because they had the jack under the car but weren't touching the car. And, all of this, it happened on lap 18-ish. So first half of the race, you're telling me they're going through the rest of the race. They're going through the interviews. They're going through the podium celebration. They're giving their Alonso the trophy. And then they issue their review of it and give him the extra 10 seconds. Like, you had over half the race to figure this out. And I think that was the only penalty of the race. So it's not like they had a whole lot of other reviews going on. I just don't see why they couldn't figure it out more promptly.
Yeah, it seems like international governing bodies of sports just don't work that well. They're just all terrible. All right, so I think that's it for the race on Sunday. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll break down the driver standings, the team standings, listen to or read some fan emails, and talk about our weekly awards. So come back for all of that. All right, welcome back to Season 5, Episode 6 of the Out F1 podcast, part of the Chip It Studios podcast network. And this is our 2023 Saudi Arabian Grand Prix race review. Once again, I'm your host, James, along with my wonderful co-hosts, Andy and Cody. And at this point, I will hand it off to Cody to run us through the driver standings 1 through 10. Cody.
All right. So in first place, to nobody's surprise, we still have Max Verstappen with 44 points. That fastest lap point really did make the difference because he is only 1 point ahead of his teammate, Sergio Perez, in second with 43 points. Fernando Alonso, 2 third-place podiums in a row, makes 30 points in third place for him. Carlos Sainz in fourth place with 20 points. Lewis Hamilton tied with him in fifth place with 20 points. George Russell in sixth place with 18 points. Lance Stroll, seventh place with 8 points. Charles Leclerc back in eighth place due to that retirement at Bahrain. Disappointingly back in eighth place with 6 points. Valtteri Bottas in ninth place with 4 points. And also with 4 points. 4 points in 10th place is Esteban Ocon.
All right, thank you, Cody. Andy, run us through the team standings, please.
All right. With back-to-back 1-2s, Red Bull Racing Powertrains, they are in P1, firmly in control, and that's only after race 2, but they are on 87 points. The battle for P2 and the constructors does look very interesting. Aston Martin and Mercedes tied on 38, but Aston Martin getting the tiebreaker as of right now. So they are in P2. Mercedes slots in P3. Ferrari right on the heels of both of those teams with 26 points. Fifth place, fifth fastest car. That's kind of where they slot in. Alpine on 8 points. Alfa Romeo slots in with 4. Haas pick up a point today, so they jump up into P7 with 1. Williams on 1. And 2 teams yet to score points this season, AlphaTauri and McLaren, both on 0 points.
All right, thank you, Andy. We'll now move into the fan email segment of the show. And as always, we start off with our girl, Rachel Fleming, who says, so I don't want to say that Red Bull is miles clear, but I can't hear that fat lady in the background, and she is warming up those vocal cords. But who was in charge of making sure the safety car was deployed? Jos Verstappen? Seemed a bit ridiculous and benefited really only Max. Finally, nice to see Logan Sargent and Oscar Piastri get some TV time and saw some good driving from both. She then amended it to say they give Alonso a 10-second penalty, demoting him to fourth after the podium procedure. I'm beyond furious as they had 30-plus laps to decide this. Total farce. But wait, there's more. Another amend from Rachel says, he has the podium back. What a total farce. Oh, well said, Rachel. Couldn't have put it better myself there at the end. Really sensed the frustration there in the email.
And kudos to her for chiming back in. I think she's in the UK, so she's like 6 hours ahead of us. And when that news broke, it was 5 o'clock here, so it was late in the evening in the UK, and she was right on the DM right when I was tweeting about it. So well done, Rachel. I appreciate the instant reaction to the breaking news there.
Fantastic.
And agree with you totally.
Yes. Next up, we have the Formula, who says, 1. Max is an absolute demon. He yoinked the fastest lap on lap 50 after the team told him not to worry about it. The car and driver pairing might be the strongest in the last decade, if not longer. 2. Logan battling the McLarens had me all kinds of conflicted, but I found myself leaning into Logan's corner more than I thought I would. He has the potential, but I think he needs to learn tire management skills yet. 3. A happy and competitive Fernando Alonso has been a great substitute for us missing Seb on the grid. I hope he can sniff out a win or two this year. First off, I agree. Max is amazing, and yoinked is one of my favorite words, so I appreciate you putting that in there. And then, of course, yes, Logan battling anybody seems awesome, and I would agree. Tire management skills is definitely something that most rookies have to learn, so I agree with you there. And then I'm happy to see Fernando Alonso battling up there. I don't miss Seb at all. It's just nice to have Fernando Alonso up there. Anybody else on the Formula?
My dream team would be something that could never exist. Fernando Alonso and Sebastian Vettel at Aston Martin would be primo.
Well, in terms of competitive Alonso, I mean, it's always good to see. His body language is totally, talk about a 180 from even the last time he was even talking about remaining in Formula One, free of Alpine and coming in, finally seeming to make a right career decision. Is definitely refreshing for him. I would look out for him in places like Monaco, in places like Hungary. There's, places that aren't, engine dependent. There is no doubt when it comes down to the driver that he's going to put it out there in those qualified sessions. And it's really hard to overtake in those places. So, look out. I think you very easily could see Fernando eking one out. He may need a little bit of help to get there, but it's definitely in the cards.
Ooh, Andy, you actually just got me excited for Monaco.
Crazy enough to
Yeah, and I'm excited for that, Andy. I know my heart's going to get broken by Charles Leclerc somehow, but
it's going to make the Saturday that much more entertaining to watch because we'll have some intrigue for sure.
That is for sure. All right, our boy Dave Doherty chiming in. He says, your thoughts on Aston Martin and Red Bull's race? Well, we covered most of that, but I think that both of them had an excellent race. Red Bull can never complain about a 1-2. I know Horner would rather have Max in first. We all know that. But yeah, Aston Martin continues to be a thorn in their side as much as anybody can be, I think, at this point. And yeah, Andy mentioned it before, but I think that third place battle is going to be very exciting. I'm sorry, second place battle will be very exciting throughout the year. All right, and then we have Vika Sharma saying, loved watching Checo and Max trade sector times lap after lap. I want to see the guy who made Alonso sweat in his prime in a Sauber versus the new wonder kid of F1 go all out. Of course, it would be better for the field to catch up, but I really want to see another 2016. Any thoughts on that, Andy?
Well, that was the Rosberg-Hamilton, title fight, within the team. And then that, kind of got scuttled a bit by the management style of Toto Wolff, who basically told them to stop trading paint with one another. So do we see Sergio and Max start to come together? Does that then put the management style of one Christian Horner right into it? Sergio's at least said he's at least within the fight. He's at least within the range. Pressure on him to compete in the next couple races. He's got to stay with Max. If he can do that, it makes that team call a lot tougher to make when it's legit. If he starts to fade, like we've seen him do sometimes before, and when it's not a street circuit, I mean, these are kind of Sergio's, stock and trade. This is where he makes his mark. He's got to do it on some other tracks, man. But, boy, that would be fun to see a real fun Red Bull inter-team battle, if nothing else.
Agreed. All right, that's it for the emails. Thank you for everybody who reached out to the show. We love hearing from each and every one of you. Let's move into the weekly awards. There, we'll start off with rubbish, as we always do. I don't think any of these are going to be a surprise. Cody, we'll kick it off to you first.
All right. My rubbish award goes to the FIA for not being able to get that Alonso penalty squared away until several hours after the race was already over. And I'm going to give an honorable mention to Ferrari. They had a little bit of frustration with Leclerc, complaining that the team didn't give him good enough communication to get ahead of, I believe it was Lewis Hamilton during the safety car. I guess there was an opportunity to do that, and he missed out. So there was a little bit of frustration there. But, yeah, that kind of pales in comparison to the FIA.
Shocking that somebody who literally painted their room Ferrari red would give Ferrari a rubbish award. Unbelievable. All right. Andy, who do you got for your rubbish award?
This one's to the FIA, and it's pretty much a landslide. You're going to tell me that after all of this restructuring, you invest in this arena that supposedly gives you every camera angle. You still have to wait on Mercedes to call you to say, would you at least look at Fernando's pit stop? That maybe there's something there. And then you go, look at that. Well, maybe we should investigate this as the freaking podium is going on. You give Alonso no chance to respond to it. Aston Martin was, I don't know why they were telling him about a 5-second penalty. They don't know the rule book either. What are we doing? Why is this happening? And again, 4 hours after the race ends, we finally get a result. But at least our podcast is accurate on it. Look at that.
It's something we didn't really touch on was the safety car caused by Lance Stroll kind of losing power there. Why was there a fucking safety car there when Lance Stroll had pulled basically off the track with maybe just his ass end just sticking out just a little bit, but definitely in a position where they could just push him out of the way? A virtual safety car, I guess, since it was I think it was like a hairpin turn. So, I guess they want to be safe about somebody maybe going off there. But, I mean, a safety car? And for as long as there was one?
I thought the same thing as you, that it should have been a virtual safety car with where he was positioned. But I had also been reading that an FIA spokesperson, I guess, said that they called the safety car because they didn't have any cameras on the incident right away. And so no one was actually sure where the car was at on the track at the time. And so they felt they had no choice but to call the safety car. So I guess more FIA debacles there. I'm not sure if that's on them, or what.
Okay, my vein in my forehead is about to explode because don't they have GPS systems, the most sophisticated global positioning? Do they not have the F1 app? I can turn on my F1 app and I can tell you where Lance Stroll was. What the fuck are they doing?
I have total faith, Andy, that you could do a better job.
My God.
Unreal.
Wow.
Unreal stuff.
Wow.
That just makes it so much worse, I feel like.
Well, they're the clear winner of the award. They're the clear winner of the award.
I was going to say that leads me into my rubbish award for the weekend, the FIA. And I think I'll leave it at that. Because we have another award to give out, and that's the Analysis Paralysis Award. Who could we possibly... Andy, let's see who you got.
I'm going to double up on this one. This is to the FIA. Again, they literally have paralyzed me with their constant analysis and none of it coming out to anything good. I mean, at least the only thing I can say is at least we got the right answer at the end of the day here.
Yep.
Thank God for that. But my God, talk about an own goal that didn't have to happen. Nobody would have said it, batted an eye about it.
Yeah, that's a good point, Andy, because they did get it right at the end, and the explanation was actually clear and made sense and covered it all, and it felt right, but it was also very dumb just how everything else played out. So Cody, who do you got for your analysis paralysis?
We're gonna keep beating that horse dead. It's the FIA because they took way too long to get that sorted out. It shouldn't be going back and forth hours and hours after the race is over.
Yep, I agree, and that's why I also have the FIA. I think that's the first time in show history that we've gone 6 for 6 in rubbish hit analysis paralysis. So we just made history, folks. Enjoy it.
And we've seen a thing or two about, and this is wow. There you go.
And so we go from beating a dead horse to praising a dark horse. Cody, who do you got for your dark horse of the weekend?
I've got Kevin Magnussen as my dark horse for the weekend for managing to squeeze into P10 right at the end of the race and secured that last point for Haas. I hadn't even really been paying attention to Haas throughout the race. I didn't think they were going to be anywhere there, but they did manage to get that last point. So good on Magnussen for that one.
I thought I was paying attention to Haas, but it was actually AlphaTauri, so that confused me there. Andy, who do you got for your dark horse?
Yeah, it's bad when you actually have to read the numbers and try to associate and go, which one is that again? Because, I mean, they really do look alike. But my dark horse, I'm going to give this one out to Esteban Ocon from literally going from the FIA outhouse to at least a solid points finish, more aligned with where we thought they would be. Best of the rest, probably on the day. So Esteban Ocon, dark horse for me.
All right. Before that safety car, I think Charles Leclerc was leading this vote for me, but after the safety car, I didn't really have much left there. So I'm going to go with George Russell for my dark horse, finishing in fourth place, just off the podium, and on the podium for a little while, and staying ahead of Lewis Hamilton will earn a dark horse in my book. All right, so for driver of the day, I'll start off first this time. I'm going Checo Perez. He did exactly what he was supposed to do on a day like today with his teammates starting as far back as he did. That's a lot of pressure to win a race from start to finish there, and he got it done today. So, Andy, agree or disagree? Who do you got for your driver of the day?
I will agree with you. Sergio Checo Perez is my driver of the day. The fact that he was able to match and extend lap times. Once Max gets into P2, here comes the team call. They're telling him to back off. It's not as important. Checo said, I'm going to show what I'm made of, and brought the car home and brought it home in first place. So well done.
And Cody, who you got for driver of the day?
I also have Sergio Perez as driver of the day. Like you said, he did everything he had to do. He did lose that first place right at the start of the race, but managed to get it back from Fernando Alonso within a couple laps. Was building up a pretty good lead. Had the safety car take that all away, but he nailed that restart and then was able to fend off Verstappen for the rest of the race. So definitely didn't do anything wrong. Managed to take home the win.
Very good. Andy, you want to run us through the prediction results?
All right, so our Mortal Kombat round 2, we didn't exactly show very well here. Max not getting on the pole kind of blew our predictions pretty much to high hell. So I only got 2 points. I had the qualifying fastest lap because I was slower, and I did manage to get Alonso. This actually is what wins it for me. The P3 podium reinstated gives me 2 points. Cody, you only had 1 point. You just got the fastest overall race lap. None of our bonus picks came through. None of our prop bets came through. Therefore, 2-1. I guess somebody has to win, and I guess that's me. But I did have the audience this weekend, so I pick up the extra point there. So now I'm 4-0 up after round 2.
Mm-hmm.
All right, very good. All right, Cody, any final thoughts after the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix of 2023?
I am looking forward to going to Australia. I always think that race is really exciting. I am, after this second race, just further solidifying that Red Bull has an extremely dominant car. I don't know how that's going to play out for the rest of the year. I really hope after the break between Australia and Azerbaijan that someone can bring some upgrade to make it a little more competitive. But right now, they still look unstoppable.
Very good. Andy, closing thoughts.
Actually, very happy to report we had no geopolitical anything happen, and we're in and out of this race, and nothing more to say on that. So I'll just leave that there. I'm very happy about that. Always excited to report on going to Australia. The Aussie fans have some of the greatest passion in the world. They won't have their main attraction, but they will have Oscar Piastri to cheer for, at least being on the grid. But you know that they're going to bring the fire and the passion, and they always do. That Albert Park track, it's a shame we're not kicking off the season down there. It's going to be fun, and it's going to keep me up all hours of the night because I think the race starts at something like midnight our time. So we'll get excited for it in a couple weeks.
Yeah, good race weekend. You know, I enjoyed watching Max and Charles slice through the field there for a little while. And yeah, good point, Andy. Got out of there without any kind of real nonsense news surrounding the race, just the nonsense news within the race, thanks to the FIA. So thankfully, that's the only thing we were complaining about this weekend, different from years past. So look forward to recording again here in a couple of weeks from the Australian Grand Prix. Usually an interesting one, to say the least. So we'll talk to you then. Andy?
As always, folks, may all your laps be fast.